A country's economy is like its financial engine. It's how the country makes and uses money. Imagine it as a big puzzle with lots of pieces. These pieces include things like making goods like cars or phones, providing services like healthcare or banking, and people working to earn money. When all these pieces fit together well, the economy is strong, and people have jobs and money to spend. But if the pieces don't fit, the economy can struggle, and people may lose jobs or have less money. So, a country's economy is all about how it manages its money, jobs, and resources to make life better for its people. GDP, or gross domestic product, is like a scoreboard for a country's economy. It adds up the value of all the goods and services a country makes and uses in a year. So, when we talk about a country's economy, we often look at its GDP because it tells us how well that financial engine is running. If the GDP is going up, it usually means the economy is doing well, and there's more money flowing around. But if the GDP is going down, it can be a sign that the economy is struggling, and people might not have as much money to spend. So, GDP helps us keep track of how a country's economy is performing and whether it's helping its people lead better lives. GDP is important because it tells us how well a country's economy is doing. It adds up the value of everything made and all the services provided in that country in a year. This helps us know if the economy is growing or shrinking. It also shows us if people have jobs and if they're financially fine. Leaders and businesses use GDP to make smart financial decisions, and it helps us understand how well off a country is economically. So, it's like a big economic report card for a country. In international trade, a country's GDP is like its economic superpower status, and is a measure of how big and strong a country's economy is. When a country has a high GDP, it's like saying that they have a lot of money and stuff to buy and sell. This makes other countries want to do business with them because there are more opportunities for trade. They can sell their products to other countries and buy cool stuff from them too. On the flip side, countries with lower GDP might find it a bit tougher to compete globally because they have fewer resources and money to play with, so they often end up buying more than they sell. So, GDP is a bit like a country's economic power meter, and it determines how well they can play the international trade game. But is the high GDP rate of a country a true indicator of economic equality among all its citizens, especially those in lower income groups? A high GDP of a country doesn't always mean that the country is wealthy, and it doesn't always reflect the well-being of all its people, and it may still cope with poverty although the GDP is high. In a country, some individuals may be highly successful farmers or businessmen, earning a significant portion of the total income, while others might have less profitable occupations or limited access to resources. This shows income inequality within a country where some individuals or groups earn a large share of the national income, while others struggle with lower incomes. Moreover, regional differences can be observed in the country's economy. Certain parts of the country may have more fertile soil or better access to trade routes, resulting in higher economic development and infrastructures in those areas. This resembles regional economic disparities within a country, where some regions are more economically advanced than others. Additionally, this also happens when a significant portion of a country's wealth or income is held or controlled by a relatively small group of individuals or businesses. This can lead to a situation where the majority of the population doesn't benefit equally from the overall economic growth reflected in the high GDP. These concentrated resources might be in the hands of a wealthy elite, large corporations, or specific industries, leaving many others with limited access to opportunities and resources. As a result, even though the country as a whole appears prosperous, a substantial portion of its population may still struggle with financial hardships and limited access to essential services and resources. Overall, just as a high GDP in a country doesn't necessarily indicate equal economic well-being for all citizens. So what kind of indicator should we use to measure the actual socioeconomic status of all people in the country? In order to measure prosperity and economic fairness of a country, the Human Development Index, developed by the United Nations, solves the problem. It considers not only income but also education and life expectancy, giving a more accurate picture of overall quality of life and equality within a nation. This shows that real wealth isn't just about a country's economic output but also about ensuring a good life for everyone. The Human Development Index is important because it provides a more comprehensive measure of a country's development and well-being than traditional economic indicators like GDP. It takes into account not only income but also health and education, making it a more holistic representation of human development. This is crucial because it highlights disparities within a country, showing where improvements are needed in areas such as healthcare, education, and income distribution. Additionally, the HDI allows for comparisons between countries, helping policymakers, researchers, and organizations identify trends, best practices, and areas requiring international assistance. The HDI is a valuable tool for assessing and addressing the well-being and quality of life of a nation's citizens. The HDI score is a number between 0 and 1, with higher values indicating higher human development. Here's how to interpret HDI scores. HDI scores above 0.8 are considered very high human development. Countries in this category typically have high life expectancy, high levels of education, and a high standard of living. 5 of the countries which HDI score above 0.9 are Norway, Iceland, Hong Kong, Australia, and Denmark. High human development. HDI scores between 0.7 and 0.8 fall into the high human development category. These countries have good overall development but may have some room for improvement in specific areas. HDI scores between 0.55 and 0.7 are categorized as medium human development. These countries have made progress in development but face significant challenges in areas like education and income. Low human development. HDI scores below 0.55 represent low human development. These countries often struggle with access to education, healthcare, and income, resulting in lower overall well-being. For example, India's GDP as of 2023 is $3,737 billion, a fifth largest in the global economy. However, India secretly holds its fame for economic disparities and social inequalities within a country. When we look at HDI ranks for India, it is 132 out of 191 countries, with HDI score of 0.633, meaning that India still faces significant challenges in areas like education and income. While countries like Norway possess only $37.3 billion, but HDI score of 0.961, meaning that it boasts a high life expectancy, extensive education opportunities, and a strong economy. GDP and HDI are like two pieces of a puzzle in understanding a country's overall well-being. In international relations, GDP can indicate a nation's influence and role in global affairs, while HDI looks at the human side, considering factors like health, education, and living standards. So, while they're not directly correlated, they complement each other and help policymakers and others get a more complete picture of a country's status and what needs attention for improvement. Therefore, both are critical indicators for advancing policy decisions that aim to improve the overall welfare and equality within a society.